what's up guys, and welcome back to another Live at 9:45. If you haven't been into the Live at 9:45 series, my name is Adam VanOrd and I'm your host. I run a little shop called VanOrd Customs, and this is the Live at 9:45 stuff that I do. If you are in currently or coming in, and I might say this again here in the moment, if you would do me a huge favor and share this to one of your favorite groups that are out there, it would be gratefully appreciated. I missed last week for an episode as I didn't get things right in time. First timer, yeah right Haas, you're not a first timer. And so since I didn't get things right in time last week, I was a week off, and then last week didn't have an episode. So remind people that Live at 9:45 is happening, and bring them in here for the greatness that's about to go down tonight. So I see that Johnny is in, and he is our guest of this evening. And for any of you who do not know Johnny Burdon, Johnny is a fellow RC scale enthusiast from Australia. And so he does some crazy cool detail oriented builds, and he's a great time to talk to. We had a nice chat last night getting ready for a test for this evening, and so I'm excited to bring you all of the cool stuff that he has going on. And if you don't know who he is and you don't follow him, you definitely should go check out his stuff, especially after all of this. So one more time, the shout out to anybody who's in here. If you would share this into one of your favorite RC groups, it would be greatly appreciated. Let's get our audience numbers up, and I will work on bringing Johnny over into what we've got going on here and get this interview up and running. All right, thanks guys. So give me just a second to pull him up on what we've got going on. Ooh, I wonder if my volume's off on my phone. Oh, that's good. Okay. Hey.
How you going?
How's it going?
Good, mate. Good. Better now I've got my coffee.
Yeah. Everybody needs coffee, you know.
Gotta have my coffee. You got one too? Good.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone there watching.
Yeah. So.
It's so weird not being the one to start a live feed and say hello to everyone and all that sort of stuff.
Right. I don't doubt that, man. If you want, you can do your normal beginning of the live feed thing now. It's up to you.
It's cool. This is your show, dude. We'll do it how you do it.
Okay, that's fine. So let's start this thing up. So people who may not know anything about you, or might be stumbling on this and it's their first time hearing of you, you do live feeds, you have a YouTube channel, you do a bunch of builds. Share a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you have going on.
Pretty simple bloke, really. I'm just what I call a pokey little RC builder from Adelaide. So I've got my YouTube channel, Aussie RC, all one word. I've got an Instagram channel as well, which is under the same name. Facebook group, Burdon's Custom RC Builds. And essentially it's just, I built an 8x8 a fair while back now, an SCX10 8x8. And I had a guy by the name of Michael Bright approach me and said, "Where's your Facebook group? I want to follow what you do." It's like, I haven't got one. And he said, "Well, you better start one. Otherwise, we're going to start one and we're going to put your name on it just so we can follow what you do." So that's how my group came about. I started my group, and then more people join, and word gets around, and it's a fun place for RC, and that's what RC is about. So that's who I am. I'm about the fun of the hobby, and helping people wherever I can. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
If I can help people out, it's been a good day.
Awesome, man. And that's a great approach. I genuinely appreciate that approach. Those are the people who I'm trying to put out there in the world and saying, like, check out these guys because they're proponents of positivity and fun and helping everybody out who's in what's going on. So,
well, there's too much crap going on in the world today. So it's nice to be able to sit down, play with our little toys, whatever you want to call them. Some people get offended when you call them toys, which I can understand. They're expensive.
Yeah.
But it's nice to sort of take yourself away from all the crap that's going on and just tinker with some stuff. It doesn't matter if it's good, bad, ugly, whatever. As long as you're enjoying doing what you're doing, I'm down with it. I reckon it's good.
Right. All right, so let's jump right into the hobby-specific questions and so on and so forth. How long have you actually been doing this RC stuff? Like, how long have you been in the hobby?
I've been interested in RC since I was this big. But as far as hobby grade RC, probably about 2.5 years.
Okay.
So not a crazy long time. I mean, I had a red cat crawler, which I forgot to get off the shelf. I had a red cat crawler I told you about yesterday, um, and I sort of had that for a long time before I did anything else. And then it was, I want something a bit better now, and I got in a bit better financial position. And 30-something RCs later, that's where I am now. So,
All right.
do I have a cat? No, I don't have a cat. Sorry,
That
bad
question
habit
is
reading comments.
no, yeah. It's really hard not to read the comments. We try to read them all and then like respond to a few of them, guys. So if you do have any questions if you do have any questions for either one of us along the way, we'd be more than happy to try to interject them into what we have going on. But at the same time, we're trying to run the interview thing at the same time. It gets confusing, so we'll do our best to keep it on track.
And this is the big thing too. There's going to be a lot of things that I say that a lot of people watching will have no clue what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So if I say something's Mickey Mouse, that means it's spot on. It's perfect. I mean, a lot of the people that watch my live feeds are starting to catch on to the crap I talk. So sorry if anyone out there doesn't pick up what I'm saying, but I can put down a bit of a translation list later on if you like.
So let's talk about that briefly. So where exactly are you right now, and what time is it there? Like, we're doing live at 9:45 from where I'm at. I'm Eastern Standard Time out of the state of Pennsylvania in the United States. Where are you at, and what time are you operating?
I'm about 35 minutes south of Adelaide City. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon. So nice day outside too. You're lucky I should be out Wheeler.
Well, I thank you for being inside
All right,
and
mate.
having the conversation with me, and that's good. So
That's all right.
all right. So
All going
let's
well. All going well. I'm going out this afternoon. Batteries are ready to go.
perfect. When we get done, you can go trailing, and I'm going to bed. So, so what was your first hobby grade RC? Was it that red cat that you just talked about?
No, I think it was, I'll say a hobby grade, but it was rather a cheap hobby grade. I had a HSB drift car.
Okay.
And I smashed that into a few concrete curves and got over that pretty quick. That's when I got the rock crawler, which was the Red Cat rock slide, I think they called it, with the RS10, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's on the cheaper side of the hobby, but I guess that was the first hobby grade thing. And then that, like I say, that led from one thing to another. So I've got to give a shout out to Steve Martin. These cups are awesome.
Nice.
Steve hooked me up with the goods.
That's awesome. So I had Steve on at one point. You want to talk about a selfless guy who does a bunch of stuff to help support the hobby? That's the guy. And if you don't know, if any of you watching don't know about Steve Martin, go find Steve Martin because he's a great guy.
You should know about Steve. Just shameless plugs everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Steve got my scale banners, some decals, t-shirts, mugs, the whole thing made up. I mean, a lot of the members in my group said, "Oh, we want t-shirts, we want mugs, and whatever else." It's like, Steve, and Steve's like literally within a few hours. Here's a design of your coffee mug. If you okay it, it's for sale in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Go do it. You know, so Steve's a good bloke.
Yeah. Okay, so people said post up the social media stuff later. Guys, any comments you put in there, I always go back and read them all. So I will link to what Steve has going on later after the show's over, and go from there. Okay, so we talked about first hobby grade RC. What or who got you started into the RC hobby?
I was in a car club. I used to drive around in 70s cars for daily drivers. I was in a car club, and a few of the boys that were in the car club had drift cars. So we'd go and do big long drives, park up in big shopping centre car parks and whatnot, and they'd get their RC drift cars out. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd get myself a drift car. And essentially just went from there. So generally once I start something with a hobby, I go at it. And I don't do little bits. You know, it's like years ago, I had aquariums. It started off with one. You get up to the time you've got 10 aquariums, most of them are over 6 foot long, and it's just like, I've got to stop. So, yeah, I don't do things by halves generally.
So, no, that makes sense that you've dove this far in over the last 2.5 years now, if that's the type of approach you usually take. And so
It's just, I think with this stuff, you can work on one truck and you do one little mod to that truck and you're like, man, that looks really cool and realistic. And I did it myself out of whatever I've got lying around at home. And then you start thinking about what else can I make for my truck. And before long, I made one of my old trucks. I made a full camp bed, full bed inside, TV, the whole deal. And it was like, it's like playing Legos. Once you build one cool thing, you just keep building more. So yeah, it's good fun.
Right. So let me pose this question to not only you, but also everybody else out there, and you guys can answer up with comments. If you weren't into RC and as involved with this hobby as you were, what hobby would you be doing, do you think, in your spare time instead?
There's a lot of options. I like a lot of different things. Fishing, 10-pin bowling, sim racing. The options are endless. I mean, even years and years and years ago, I used to play the drums, and then recently my partner's daughter, I want an electric drum kit. So as soon as the drum kit turns up, it's like, I wonder if I've still got it. You know, it's stuff like that. I mean, years ago, I taught myself how to play the guitar. It was just, I wanted something to do, so I picked up a guitar. I taught myself how to play it, you know, because I wanted to be good at these things. So, and I guess that's the same with the RC stuff. There's been plenty that I've done. I'll do it and go, oh, that was pretty crap. I'll do it again, and I'll pick up from what I did wrong the first time and do what I can to try and make it better the next time. So, yeah, it's a hard one to answer. There's lots of options.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that you kind of find that a lot with people who are really involved in RC. Everybody I ask that question of, they're like, man, if I wasn't in RC, I'd just do one of my other, like, 6 hobbies that I have going on. And so it's kind of the type of people who are drawn deeply into what we're doing for the most part. Yeah. So let's talk about tire size. Are you a fan of big tires, or are you a fan of small size tires, and why?
I prefer the smaller tires. Generally speaking, I've always got something pre-prepared. That's about as big as I like to go. Yeah. That's the standard cross RC tire, which is a 115 millimeters. I don't know what that is in inches. I'm sure you can figure that out. 115 millimeters tall.
I'm not going to try and convert that on the fly. So someone out there, you guys can figure that out, post it up, share with everybody. But I'm not. But my math skills are not like on the fly in your head kind of math skills while I'm trying to run this. So
generally between those sort of sizes, I think that's about an 80. So between those, I mean, you can get to a point, depending on the truck, of course, too, and what axles, etc. it's got. If your tire gets too small, well, you just get hung up everywhere, and then it's no fun. So that's when you got to bump them up 5-10 mil to try and get it a good size, so that you can get places, but you have to work to do it. You know, I've never been a fan of 2.2s. I've said that for a long time, and I never will be. I take the piss out of some of the guys in my group about it when they put them on their trucks, and it's all in good fun. Yeah. But I mean, you've seen the camel truck I built. That's got, I think, they 100 mil tires. Okay. So they're not huge, and I want it to look scale. I want it to get where it's got to go, but at the same time, it's got to get there because I made it get there, not because it's got monster truck tires on it. Right. Yeah. Understand. No offense to anyone that runs 2.2s. Well, yeah. Well, and some of it's terrain based. Some of it's the type of truck you're running. Some of it's whether you're involved in competitions or you're very much more in the scale aspect of it. There's a lot of factors that go into that, just like there's a lot of factors that go into the next question, which is, are you a brushed or a brushless fan, and why that? I'm a brushed guy, and it's just, I don't know, I've always been a brushed guy. I've had mates around me jump to brushless setups. I'm sure there's been a lot of times where they've gone overboard, and that's probably been the cause of a lot of their issues. But I don't know, I'm old school. It's a lot of the crawlers I've had have all come with brushed motors, and it's like, well, that's what's in it. It's there for a reason. It was designed with this motor. That's what I'm going to run. And when it comes down to it as well, if I wreck a brushed motor, it's less than $20 to replace it. You know, it's not a big brushless setup that I've got to spend a fortune on. So my brain says the money I've saved on not putting a big brushless setup in, I can spend on other goodies, whether it's scale accessories or, you know, fancy hubs and that sort of thing. So it's brushed for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great way to respond to that answer. And I like the value-minded part of that, where you're saying it's cheaper to
It's an
replace the
expensive
brush
hobby.
motor, as long as you stay in the value aspect of it, than the brushless. And so when you have like 30 some rigs, yeah, like that, you kind of have to pay a little bit of attention to that, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how.
Budget is really easy to get out of hand. Like when I'm sponsored by RC, mate, and I used to do a lot more orders than I do now. But when I do orders, it's like, okay, for this truck I need a servo, so that's going to cost me this much. For this truck I need this, it's going to cost me this much. When you get to the point where you got over 30 RCs and they all start to want something, you go, this is starting to cost me a lot of money.
Right, right.
You know, sponsored or not, it's going to cost a lot of money to get all the little bits and pieces you want for these things. So, yeah, I mean, and that's, I guess, a reason why I was so happy to be sponsored by the people I'm sponsored by. Yeah, racing's one of them too. I know I can get their servos that are brilliant. They're value minded. You know, it's
Yeah.
I've got all these trucks and they all run the same servo because they're not expensive yet. They're just as good. I've found as a lot of more expensive servos. So
Yeah, no, and so the budget thing kind of comes up in a lot of the conversations that I have with people. And so, do you operate on a really tight RC budget, or do you have like if it needs it, it gets it kind of mentality?
depends what it is. Like the BC8, the Cross Mammoth,
Yeah.
I put two 20 kilo servos in that and shot them to pieces because I mean the book recommended 30 kilo servos, but I thought I could get away with it. Once I wrecked the servos at Rin, it's okay. I'm just going to have to go complete opposite end now. I bought two 46 kilo servos, which I think were about $76 each.
Yeah.
For me, that's a lot of money for a servo. So by the time you've got the truck, the paint, the electronics, you know, the time that goes into building it, then when it comes to replacing electronics that you were hoping not to have to in the first place, it's nice to try and do it without blowing the money right out of out of the water. So
Right.
I don't know. It depends. Depends what the build is. Like the camel truck I built, that cost a fair bit of money, but it's one of those things where, generally speaking, I do it over a little bit of time. I mean, I know a lot of my builds I tend to pump out pretty quick, but I guess that's due to I've been off work for nearly a year now with a back injury, so I've had a bit of extra time more so than what most people do. And when there's not a whole lot you can do, I mean, for the first 6 months, I could barely get out with my trucks at all. So I'd sit down, smash out builds. It gave me something to do, kept my mind busy. It's actually been massively helpful in me not going just crazy, not being able to do anything. So
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Having something to keep you busy, pumping out all the brain power would definitely make a big difference, especially if you're kind of tied up and have to be in the house. So let me shift it just a touch and ask you, what is your favorite part about RC in general? Like if you look at the broad spectrum.
I'd love to say it's the people you meet. I mean, I'll say it's some of the people you meet because we all know there's those people that you meet and you go, oh. I don't know. It's your imagination can run wild with it. I think that's one of the big things. You can have, I mean, it's like this thing. You have a vision, and then you can the vision that you had, you can put it into something that's real right in front of you. I was around at one of my mates' place, and before I even started the build on this truck, we were sort of joking around. And I said I should just do it all black and make it like some sort of serial killer's truck. And then he said something about being Russian, and then I said, well, the Black Russian. That was it. That's what the truck's called, and the whole thing just sort of went from there after that. So it's nice to envision these things and go, let's see if I can make it. It's like the camel truck. I've loved camel trucks for years. The sort of stuff these guys went through to get their four-wheel drives where they had to go.
Right.
For years I've wanted one. I was like, it'd be so cool to have a camel truck. And then one day I said, screw it, I'm going to build one. So that's how that started.
Yeah. So we talked about how many RCs you have kicking around your numbers somewhere in the 30 department, but let's talk about something that you have sitting like right near you that you can show off. Let's do a little show and tell. Let's talk about it. Whether it's the one you just picked up or whatever, let's have a chat.
You've got some options. It's up to you. I mean, I love them all the same. There's one truck that is higher than the rest, and that was my first cross truck, the old farm truck. That's just here if you want to see it. It's up. I'll let you guys decide if you like. I mean, I love them all equally. And
yeah.
I bombard people in my group and my Instagram and that with my stuff all the time. So I've got a camel truck sitting here. I've got the mammoth sitting here, trying to pick that one because it's too heavy. I've got a GC4 farm truck sitting just down here. If you swipe the comments out of the way, you can see it.
Yeah.
I better show you one I'm probably most known for.
Yeah, let's see that one.
So here's the part of the back of it. So don't build 8x8s. They're too big.
I was going to say, that thing's huge.
It's a massive truck. This is bigger than the BC8. So this is my actual SCX10 8x8.
Yeah.
It runs a 21-turn brushed motor through a 5-to-1 planetary gearbox that shaft drives the SCX10 transmission. And then it's all metal shafts out to SCX10 dips.
Yeah.
So this one's known as Juggernaut. I like to name some of my trucks. I don't know why, but I do.
Yeah.
This was one of the first trucks I built that people sort of looked at and went, I like what this guy does. So, which is cool. I mean, I'm honoured to have anyone want to see anything I do. That's awesome. Right. So yeah, when I bought it, it was originally just a cab and it was a 6x6. That was it. So I built all the storage container, the tray, the toolboxes and such all around the back of it. Built an interior for it, decked all that out. And it was just, this is where it started. You start to learn about all the little different things you can do. You know, you see all these guys pumping out awesome interiors like Sean Saley and stuff like that. You know, you see his work.
Yep.
Some of the work they do is incredible. And you think, man, I'd love something like that. I mean, my interiors are nothing like Sean does, but I'm getting there slowly. You know, it's with every bit of styrene work you do, you push your limits a bit further, and I'll try and do something different this time and put a curve on it instead of it just being a joint like this. You know?
Right. Well, and that's the thing, and I think that I have to pick out that little piece that you just said there, which said, like, every time you do something, you get that much better. And so I think that with the level that some of the top guys in our hobby are at, where they're just building these outstanding pieces of art on what seems like a weekly basis right now. It's absolutely crazy that people are intimidated to take that on because there's so many options for buying things. Like, you can pretty much buy whatever you want and pull it on. People are afraid to take on that, like, make it yourself mentality. And in reality, like, the first thing you make may not be the most wonderful piece of art ever, but every time you do it, it gets better. So
you don't have to post the shitty stuff you make. There's been lots of stuff where I'll go, this is what we're going to build, and I'll start building it, and I'll be like, that's crap. What was I thinking? So if I can, I'll pull it apart so I can reuse what pieces I've used. Try again. It's the only way to get better. You're not going to build this stuff and just smash it out of the park your first go.
Right.
So I mean, I showed you, it's still down here from yesterday. This is the first ever RC body I built. And I mean, it's nothing special. It's just simple angles, but it sort of works because, I mean, it's an armored vehicle and they are pretty simple angles. So
yeah,
that was the first body I built. I think I ran it once. It's like, I've developed a bad habit of building more than I drive. Don't do that.
You know, it's bad. It's good and bad. It all depends on what you have going on. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff you have built. I want to talk specifically about the camel truck. And so when we were discussing the upcoming episode, the interview stuff, you sent me a couple pictures of the camel truck. You've posted some of those pictures, like some other pictures about it today, even. Like, I saw them hitting your feed as we were going on. And man, there's so many details in that rig, and like just a ton of scale stuff that's going on there. Do you purchase a lot of those little tiny details, or is that stuff that you've made, or is it a combination? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, combination basically. Sponsored by Yeah Racing, so I try and use as many of their scale accessories as I can. And then again, that comes down to value for money. In my opinion, you're hard pressed to find better value for money accessories, because for a $10 pack you get, so many scale accessories in it that once you weather, I'll give you a bit of an example. Once you start to weather the simple stuff they give you, I mean, there's a Yeah Racing plastic winch, which, let's face it, 90% of us aren't going to put it in our trucks. But if you hit it with a bit of weathering powder and sort of, you make it look a lot less on a cheap plastic winchy. So
Yep.
I would put that on a truck. If it was a little CC01, I didn't care if it had a winch, I'll put that on it. So I build what I can. I build stuff that I can't buy. The camel truck didn't have inner fenders or anything like that, so I built all the inner fenders.
Right.
All the scale details in the engine bay, I'll pick it up in a second. All the scale details in the engine bay, etc. I did all that. I built the tent for the back of it, because you can't just buy a tent for these roof cages. I built a full back drawer in the back of the truck. I'm not sure if you've seen that yet or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I can make, I'll make. Even little things like, all my trucks are heavy. Even things like,
it's all those scale goodies. They just add up in weight, man.
There's too many. Where the shovel's attached, I'll get like a zip tie, and I'll cut a certain length of it, heat it up with a cigarette lighter, and push it over the scale accessory until it has that shape in it. Then you can glue it down, and that's what holds your shovel on. Things like that. We can all do this stuff. It's all at home. It's just a matter of you're thinking to yourself, what can I use to make this part? I mean, I've used the high impact polystyrene to build all the inner fenders and such. The little computer here, that's actually a cover off a driving light, like one of the square roof lights. So I just used one of those, ran some wires up into it, little Land Rover sticker, and I don't know how well you can see it, but for all intents and purposes, it looks like a computer for the truck. So I'll show you the drawer setup. It's a bit hard to swing all this stuff around, but in the back of the truck, I built a proper pull-out drawer for it. You can see I built a rooftop tent. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can't buy. I mean, we can get 3D printed stuff and that sort of thing. I haven't got a printer, which at the moment is probably a good thing, because if I had one, I'd print everything.
Right.
So in the back of the truck, I built the full, just with balsa wood, full slide out drawer, tray in the back, just so I could fill it with scale accessories, and then it wasn't just an empty back of a truck. It's got to have that story behind it. This truck's gone through crap everywhere. You need stuff to get you out. You need supplies, all those things. They're all in there. So, yeah.
So you talk about the story behind it. Can you elaborate for people watching? Like you and I talked about it a little bit last night in our pre-interview conversation. Can you elaborate a little bit for the people out there who are maybe watching this who don't necessarily know what you mean, or maybe they don't think in that manner when they build? Like, what do you mean by having a story behind the truck?
This truck will be a perfect example.
Yeah.
This is my favorite out of the whole lot. I love this truck. This was my first cross truck. Generally speaking, this is a military truck. So it's all green. The whole lot's green. It's just a military truck. And I thought 100,000 people out there before me have built a military truck.
Right.
I don't want to do a military truck. I want a story behind it, and I want it to look old school. I love the 50s and 60s cars, and it's like I'd almost like to use one of those colours on this truck. So the story behind it was a farmer bought this truck off a company that repurposes old military trucks. They paint them up and they use them for everyday use. So the old farmer went down, bought himself a truck that he can use on the farm. Obviously, he doesn't use it much because it's not very dirty. But I mean, that was the story behind it. So like even with the dashboard and such, I've done a cream dashboard with a wood grain center, that sort of thing, to try and it makes it look more old school and homely use as opposed to a green dashboard for an army truck.
Right.
So that's with the story. It's don't just look at the truck for what it is. Think about the possibilities of what it could be. You know,
Gotcha.
it doesn't have to be a green military truck. So I love this.
Yeah. So my next question is actually tying into a bunch of the comments that I'm seeing. They say that you love dirty trucks, you love trucks that look like they've been used. And one of the ones that really, really caught my eye is that camel truck, because you have a picture, and I used it as the picture for like the event page talking about having you on the show. If you look at that picture, inside of it, every part of the inside of that truck
I'll see if I can show it.
has been detailed somehow.
So it's hard to show, but
It is
it's pretty
hard to show
dirty
on
in
live.
there. But there's that, and then in the back, because you have to have everything you need when you go on a camel trophy adventure.
Yeah.
So there's playing cards and drinks and all that sort of thing in the back as well. So, I mean, if anyone wants to check out some high detailed photos instead of whatever we can see on the live feed,
Right.
so I want to swing over to my group, or I can drop some pictures in your group here.
Yeah.
It's got to look like it's used. You know, that's the whole thing with making it muddy. It's a mixture of Tamiya weathering kits,
Okay.
water, paint. That's all I use. So I taught myself how to do it. I started with an old axial Jeep body, and I did a little bit of rust, and I said to the guys in the group, what do you think? And they're like, oh, that looks awesome. Okay, I'll rust the whole thing. So I used that body just to practice with.
Right.
Rusted it all out, and then a local guy contacted me and said, how much for the Jeep? So I got rid of the Jeep, and it's just, all right. Once you rust one thing, you start to rust everything you possibly can, and then it's hard to pull yourself back into just build a shiny truck. Build a clean one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. Once you sort of teach yourself how to, oh, this is a greasy stain, that's a rusty mark, this is a muddy, you know, there's so many different little aspects of weathering a truck or dirtying it up. Yeah. It's really hard to not do it afterwards. So
no, and I get that. And so I've always built very like clean trucks, very like you build it and it's painted nicely and there's all of that. And what I've found is now at this stage, as I get more in tune with the scale stuff, I want to build a little more on that side. And so I've looked into some of the weathering details, but I just haven't gotten there yet. But that's where I'm heading at.
Get yourself some of those weathering kits. I mean, even if it's one or two, get some scale accessories and just have a play with them. They're probably, I mean, I've tried other ways and I keep going back to the Tamiya stuff. Where I buy them from, that's not cheap. We've got a couple of stores here, and compared to what you guys pay for stuff, it's pretty expensive. But I think I've got 20 packs sitting there because I can't help myself. It's like, oh, I need kit C and I need kit B. So next time I drive past, I'll pick up a couple of kits. I'll come home with kit F and, you know, and kit G as well. So it's addictive.
Right.
It's definitely good fun.
Right. So I have to take this second to address one other thing that happens in the live feed stuff, and I noticed it was happening, and so I just want to address the crowd of you who are watching. Is, guys, if you hit that like button a bunch of times, it'll freeze our feed and it'll boot us. Especially honestly with Facebook trying to communicate literally all the way across the world, and so it's not that we don't want you to like what we have going on, but just comment up or like in the comments, whatever you have to do. But if you continue to hit the like button over and over again, it will freeze us and it will boot our feed and we'll have to start over.
Angry faces make it worse. Don't hit angry faces.
So we would just appreciate it if you comment up as opposed to doing that. As much as I wish Facebook would allow that to happen, it drives me crazy that they won't let that happen, but it is what it is. So I have to ask, you just said that things are a little more expensive for you than for us here in the States.
Yep.
Being in Australia, do you find that it's difficult to get the same access to the things that we can get in the States? Or Like, how's that going?
Well, I mean, that all depends on what you want. I mean, if you want something bad enough and know it around you've got it, you just order it online and you have to wait for it. I mean, that's what it comes down to these days. So
Yeah.
you sort of you get into the mentality after going to so many shops and they haven't got what you want, and you go back there a few months later and they haven't got what you want, and then they go, "Why do people shop online?" Because you've never got what I want, mate. So there's been plenty of times I've been to local shops and said, "I've got a pocket full of cash and I want to spend it here. Have you got this, 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 and this?" And they're like, "Oh, no." Nah. Well, I
Yeah.
don't complain if if I go online. So look, if a local shop's got it, I'll buy it straight away because, as I said to you yesterday, zero patience. Oh, there's times where I'll pay an extra $20 for something for the convenience of having it that day instead of waiting 2 weeks.
Yep.
You know, so for all the shops out there, have stuff in your shop. If you haven't got stuff to sell, people can't buy it.
Yes, and I think that's good advice. And
Um,
be in tune with
a
and
big
know who's
piece,
coming in.
a big piece of advice for your shops out there is if you've got the same bloke keeps coming in or the same group of people and they keep asking for crawler stuff or buggy stuff or whatever, get that stuff in. Don't just keep getting the other stuff in that won't sell. One of my local shops has a bad habit of just having one sort of thing in. It's like, and he's 2 minutes down the road, so it's really annoying. It's like, dude, get this stuff in, I'll come and buy it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, take note of who comes in your shop.
Right, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about where you gain the inspiration for the builds that you do. I know you definitely put some thought and effort into what you're doing. So where does the inspiration come from for each specific, like when you go to do a build, where does it come from?
I honestly don't know. It all depends. I mean, the camel's a camel, obviously. So you watch a few YouTube videos of the old camel trucks getting about, and then before you know it, I've researched everything I can possibly learn about camel trucks. Okay, I know what I need to know, down to the point where I've got a file on my computer that I've got to print out yet of a map of where they actually did the Australian Camel Trophy run. So I'm going to print out the map, put a few folds in it, and that's going to go on the dashboard of the truck. So that's the trophy that this truck ran in. I don't know. It's like you ask some good questions.
Yeah.
There's ones where I mean, sometimes I'll just say, "This is what I'm going to build with this truck," and then from that point forward, it's okay. This is the truck I'm going to build. What can I do now to try and make it not just the same as that person's truck? That's the same as mine. So,
Right.
not as silly as it sounds, I've got a TRX4 sitting here, and it's like I don't want to just swap out the body. It's an expensive body for what they are. I want to see how many things I can put on that body to make it look better and not go overboard. I want to make it look like it's a modern day Camel Trophy truck. So yeah, I mean, I've got everything on that thing. But at the same time, when I look at it driving through the trails, it doesn't look out of place, and it doesn't look like I've just gone to the shop and said, "Give me two of everything."
Right.
It's the scale accessories have to be placed right, where you'd actually put stuff. I mean, I've done a lot of full driving over the years and camping and that sort of thing, so I know where you're going to put stuff in a truck, and use the same principles when you do these trucks.
Yep. No, that makes perfect sense. One of the things that you hinted on in your conversation, but you went a little more in depth on last night, was you intentionally are trying to make things unique and stand out inside of what everybody has going on in the hobby. So can you speak a little bit to that process? I know that's a really big one for me. Anytime I build something, I want it to be different than what everybody else has going on. And so we shared that. And so I'd like to hear a little bit about your perspective on that specifically.
It's like we said last night. It is so hard to stand out now because everything's been done. I mean, nearly everything. It's when I did the BC8, it was I've got to do something that's going to stand out from the rest because I can't just build an army truck and have everyone go, "Oh, yours looks like mine." That would kill me. I can't do it. They take a long time to build, and there's a lot of scale details and things like that. So I don't want to go to all this effort and then have someone tell me that it looks exactly the same as theirs. And I'm like, well, I might as well have just gone aboard an RTR truck. I'd much rather sit down, think about the little things that I can do to make mine different, whether it's detailing the inside of the truck and thinking about, I mean, that's a Camel trophy truck and it's got a scale packet of Camel cigarettes on the dashboard. There's a lot of people that have never noticed that sort of thing unless they do a really close-up picture, but I know it's there. You know, there's those little
Right.
details where someone can say, oh, it's the same as mine. And it's like, well, unless you look close, you know, I like the detail that the more you look, the more you see. That's what sets trucks apart. If you've got two sitting side by side and they both look the same, what's the point?
Right.
You know?
Yep. Make it unique, make it your own. So,
Yep.
What would you say is your favorite RC that you have ever built?
Do you want to see it? It's a bit rough.
Yes.
I was going to grab it down before. So try not to laugh. Everyone at home's going to crack a laugh.
Well, I for one am not going to laugh because it is what it is. If that's your favorite one, it's your favorite one. It's awesome.
So the story behind this truck is I bought a box of parts, and I told you about this yesterday.
Yeah.
It cost me $70 for a box of parts, and it was the first competition / hobby crawler that I'd ever had. I had no idea what I was doing with it. I got home, sat on the front porch, and just started putting it together how it looked like it went until I figured it out. I got to the point where the only part I needed was a link mount for the top of the diff, and it was like, I'll make one. Like, that way the thing works. I'll make a part for it. As soon as I made the part, the truck worked. It was like, oh, sweet, $70, I've got a rock crawler. I took that out with my mates and drove it around, and it's like, it doesn't fit in. It's got massive 2.2s. They were driving SEX 10s with 1.9s, and, you know, they all look pretty scale. And here's my monster truck following them everywhere, just making everything too easy. So I sort of went to the drawing board, and it's like, I've got to change this truck around. I can't drive it like this anymore. And this is what I come up with. This is a Red Cat rock slide, which you can see in the middle. You can still see the remnants of the old truck.
Sure can.
I extended the chassis rails front and back. This was my first battery tray. I love this thing. I don't care what anyone says. Like, it's worth nothing. Yeah. But I built this thing to the point where it would go more places than an SEX 10, you know, and my mates didn't go much on that at the time. There you go. Look, there's the bracket I made to hold the links.
Yeah.
So I love this thing to pieces. It was my first scale-ish sort of crawler. I could put the proper axial body on it. I built a camper on the back of it. I'll post up a picture later on of the body and camper setup I had on it. To look at it, you wouldn't know if it was an axial or Viterra or this mess underneath. So this is probably my favorite, because without this, none of this would have happened, basically. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. And I don't have specifically, like, couldn't pick it out of a place somewhere and show it to you on camera what I built with, but I mean, that's what my original stuff was. It was I built it ready to run, and then I made it my own, and I built all kinds of crazy stuff for it, and it looked horrendous. It looked hideous. The first few looked really bad, but it all, like, every time I built something, the skills came, and, like, there's an ode to going back to all of that stuff where if you look back at pictures, you're like, man, I really thought that looked awesome. And I'm like, I was like, I thought that was like perfect scale shot. It popped up on my newsfeed like 5 days ago. I was like, I built like a wood bed on like an old SCX-10 with like a Tacoma front end shell and all that. And I took this picture and I was like, man, that's like perfectly scale. It popped up on my newsfeed the other day. I was like, wow, that was bad. Like, holy cow.
So, who's been sharing pictures on my feed?
Like, where'd that come from? So, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the fact that you have, with building 30 rigs, you build from a plethora of different companies, different kits, different versions of things. What would you say is your favorite brand to build, to work with, and as far as like the whole truck?
Most people know that one. It's got to be cross. And I think it's because the cross trucks, that farm truck was my dream truck for a long time. When I was running that old hoopty that I just showed you then,
Yeah.
I seen the cross truck on the internet and it was like, man, check that thing out. It's so different. I love old trucks that are so ugly they're beautiful, and that's one of them. And I seen it and was like, oh, I'd give anything to have something like that. And I forgot about it for at least a year because there was no way at the time I could buy something like that. And then move on down the track a bit, got into a better position, got myself a cross truck, and it was like, wow, I finally got that dream truck that I thought I'd never ever have.
Yeah.
It wasn't cheap. I think it was about $900 delivered, and it's like that's a lot of money. And I enjoyed every part of building it. It's like it cost this much money, even if I don't like it. I'm going to enjoy building it because it costs so much money.
Yeah.
But it's, I followed the instructions and I built the thing. And as you said, like I like to take a lot of pictures of what I'm doing. And it's just, I look at how stuff's machined and it's like, damn, that's a pretty piece. I'll take a picture of it, and I'll do my little edits and whatnot on the pictures as I do. It's like if a company can put this much effort into making something look nice, it shouldn't just be stuffed under a truck and hidden there. I want people to see how nice this pretty stuff is. It's like, this is why I like this stuff, because it's not just, oh, bam, there's your truck. There's effort here, there, how it's thought out and all that sort of thing too. So I love my cross trucks.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And so in that statement, you kind of alluded to where my next question is going. And I did notice that your pictures that you take are very well done. Like, they're intentional, they're well thought out in how you have framed things, how you've composed them. But additionally, you've spent some time and put a little edit on a lot of them, if not all of them. And so do you feel that photography is an important part in the Scale RC community that we have right now? And then as a follow-up question, where did you develop those skills and like how did they come about?
Well, we can't call something, I mean, you said yourself, a picture popped up in your news feed and you're like, wow, I thought that was so much better than it was. I mean, you can't have a scale truck look scale if you take a photo from up here. You have to get on your hands and knees, and you got to think to yourself, if I was, say, looking at a full drive magazine, what angle was that? There's a dude standing over there with his camera taking the photo. So I'm that dude, but I'm this tall and I'm down here, and I don't know. It's just, for me, I think I do put a lot of time and effort into the trucks I build, and I'm pretty proud of what I've done with the trucks I've built. So I don't want to go out and just, I should be right, take a quick photo, here's my truck out in the trailers. I want to make it look like the scale truck that I built is in a scale scene, or like I said to you, we've got scale bushes here everywhere.
Yeah.
So I try and use those to my advantage. I'll find a parking spot that looks like it could be a good campsite or something like that. That's where I want to take my pictures. I might take 20 pictures. I'll keep 2 of them at the end of the trip, move on to the next spot. I could drive 50 meters, stop, take another 20 photos. So these trucks might be expensive, but if you put the time and effort into the build, take your time, think about what you want to do with it, how you drive it so you don't break everything, and then there's the photography of it. So you're not just getting the fun out of driving it, you get the fun out of how real can I make this tiny truck look while it's out in this big world. So half the fun's taking photos.
Right. And I've spent a little time dabbling in that in the last year, and man, I dove off the deep end pretty heavy. So I mean, it's super fun, and it's exactly what you said, where how real can I make it look? When you show it to people, can they be like, is that a real truck, or is it like this big?
I mean, that's what we're going for, isn't it? That's
Right.
The whole point behind doing a big scale build with all the details and that sort of thing. So like Tony's just said, takes an hour of video to make 5 minutes of footage. He's not kidding. I mean, I'm no expert with YouTube videos. I go out and I film some stuff, and some people enjoy it, some people might not want to watch it. That's fine. It's it's there for memories for me more than anything when it comes back to it. But I can sit there editing for 8 hours to make a 5 minute video. I can have ridiculous lengths of slow motion and normal motion clips on my phone, and that's all I use. My phone for the photography, phone for videos. There's no fancy cameras. It's all my phone, which fortunately has a really good camera in it.
Yeah. So, A, what phone are you using? And B, are you using like any apps that are helping in that department? So for a while, I was really devoted to using my phone to do all of it. And then I found out, like, after I was doing a bunch of video editing, I got to the point where I was trying to put too much through it and it was kind of killing my phone. So I went with a camera.
Yep.
So are you using apps or anything to help support some of what you have going on?
I use a HTC U11. Before that, I had a HTC 10, and they're both pretty well on par with their cameras. They're bloody brilliant. With editing, I use the phone's editing on its own software, and depending on the photo, I'll use some Instagram editing as well. So you can get some really good effects by using the sharpen and the structure and vignette and stuff like that. Have a play with the settings on your phone. There's so many people out there that'll buy a phone, probably more people than anything, that'll buy a phone, take a photo, and just use what they've got. They won't change the exposure, the brightness, the contrast, or any of that sort of stuff. They won't go back through and edit photos in a manner that can crispen it up and make it look more HD than it is, or that sort of thing. So go out there with the trucks and play with your phone. Take a photo that's up close, take a photo that's out further away that later on you can crop if you want to. A lot of the times when I take photos, I'll hold the phone in the same place, focus on one point, take a picture, focus on another point, take a picture in the same spot. Because then I've got multiple options of editing later on to try and get the look I'm going for with each shot.
Right. So as someone who's done some stuff with cell phones, I'm gonna shout out. I don't know if you use any, like you said, you're not really using any apps, but I'm gonna give you two that I really, really, really like, and I like putting them out there for people who use their cell phone to take pictures. So one is Snapseed, and it's a free app. It is just an editing app. So after you take your picture, you can upload it into Snapseed and use all kinds of incredibly, incredibly powerful editing tools. But the other one is Lightroom, and so Lightroom has a free version of their app that you can use on your phone, and so it allows you to have settings on your phone that would match or mirror what you can use on like a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. And so you can control your shutter speed, your aperture, your ISO. It makes things a little more complicated and allows you to take like nearly a raw photo, if anybody knows what that is. So instead of just a JPEG, you have more dynamic range.
The funny you say that, because the HTC lets you take raw photos. So you can go full pro mode. There's 100 things you can play with, and you might sit down for an hour taking photos and playing with these sliders, and it's not until you start moving them and see what they do that you learn what all these little abbreviations are. And that's, like I say, I mean, I've got, I think, over 2,600 odd photos on my Instagram.
Oh yeah.
There's been a fair bit of practice to get to where I am today with the photos.
Exactly, and that's the thing. And I saw someone post up. I speak French. That's funny. So I saw someone post up that like they wish they were better with the photo stuff. Well, like when I started doing it at all, I wasn't good at it, and I'm still not like perfect or absolutely amazing. But all of it is exactly what you said. You go in there and once you enter the editing tools, you just have those little sliders. You move them back and forth. You see what they do. I always go from one end to the other. I used to see what it would do, and I'd be like, somewhere right here. Like,
and that's the best way of doing it. It's not until you get out there and have a go. The biggest thing you got to do is be willing to get on your hands and knees to take a scale photo. I've seen so many people half bend over because they can't be bothered kneeling down to do it. If you want it to look good, you've got to put this much effort in, hands and knees, take a picture, take 5 or 6. You're already on your hands and knees, you might as well do it anyway. So, yeah, you've got to put a little bit of effort in if you want it to look good. I mean, I don't sit there and think my photos are anything brilliant. If people like them, that's good. I try and make them look good, but what's Nick says? Sliders like different filters. Sliders is in the settings on your phone, Nick. You have, like my phone's got one setting that says pop. If you slide it from one end to the other, it'll really crispen and sharpen up the whole image. If you slide it back down, it'll soften it. you also have filters as well. So your filters will do different colors and crispiness and whatever else all at the
Yep.
same sort of time.
Yeah.
So
So I mean,
yeah, take a photo.
yep, the
You're right.
basics of that, to like jump on and kind of answer the question with you, is that like your filter does all of those settings. So it's like
Yep.
someone else has gone through and adjusted a bunch of settings, and you're taking their settings and just applying them to your photo. And then when I say sliders, I mean like you're adjusting your exposure, you're adjusting your white balance, you're adjusting like all of the different things that you possibly can. And it looks intimidating at first, but it really isn't. You just play with it and see where it goes.
Yeah. Once you wreck a few photos, you learn pretty quick.
Exactly. And you will. You'll annihilate them. So practice with stuff that's garbage first. So, all right. Let's talk a little bit about probably the hardest thing I think that I'm going to have to ask you tonight is who are your influences in this segment of our hobby? And if you were going to pick someone to have on the show, who would it be?
Well, I'd have Steve Martin on the show, but he's already been on it.
Yeah, yes.
Look, there's a lot of people out there. I'd have Robert Mazza on the show. Now, I know this is going to seem really one-sided because Rob's cross dealer, but Rob's not just a cross dealer. Rob does a lot of stuff for RC. Yes, he's trying to help Cross build up their name worldwide. He's gone from just being a shop that sells Cross to a worldwide dealer, I believe now. But Rob does a lot of other stuff too. He'll do stuff like track days and stuff for the kids to come and try out RCs and such at his shop and all that sort of thing too. So yeah. Rob's a bloke I'd definitely recommend to have on for a bit of a chit chat. A lot of people can find Rob a bit hard to take sometimes when he writes on Facebook, but Rob's not a young man. He writes stuff as an older gentleman might, straight to the point. If you don't like it, oh shit. But yeah, Rob's a great friend of mine since I bought the farm truck from Rob. So he's someone I think to be interesting to listen to what he's done in RC over the years, like Tony just said, drone racing as well. So yeah, he'd be really good to see someone sort of pick apart. Yeah. As far as inspirational people, all those people out there that aren't the annoying people, the people that are willing to try something new, that are happy to help other people and go out of their way, I think's the big thing. I think I said to you yesterday, it doesn't matter if you try and build something that turns out crap. It's if you've used a bit of imagination and you've had a go at it, that's enough to inspire the next person to go, well, look, if he's tried it, I'll do it. So, yeah, I don't have one big person. You know, there's been lots of people, I've seen plenty of your shows with people like Josh and stuff that have been on where they build really cool stuff and you know, oh, I want to build stuff like Josh does or whatever else. I might watch stuff and go, that's a clever idea, Josh. I might borrow some of that idea later. But yeah, I don't know. I'll pick a lot of little pieces from different people. Like I say, Josh does some great stuff. Jason Hoy does some great stuff. I mean, there's just so many people. Dion's been on. He does some ridiculously good stuff. And Dion can take constructive criticism.
Yeah.
without cracking the... Dion sent me a boat. I bought a boat off him a while ago. And he sent me a wheelbarrow. I didn't know it was coming. He sent me a wheelbarrow and said, Dion, that's awesome. If you could just change the shape of the front a little bit. And to the man's credit, he was like, cool, sweet, done, I'll do it. And then he sent me some pictures. What do you think? Does this look more like a wheelbarrow you'd see? I was like, dude, smashed it out of the park. It was awesome. I was like, I hope you don't think I'm a bit of a penis, because I said, this is how we see them. You know, he's like, no, I appreciate the tip. So yeah, they're people I look up to.
He's probably one of the most humble people that I've chatted with, that I've had on the show, and we keep in contact fairly regularly. And like, man, the detail and like the precision in how the stuff that he prints gets printed, oh, so good.
I don't think I've seen anyone print anything cleaner.
I would argue that. Like, I haven't held it in my hands, so I can't say it. But I would argue that that's probably a true statement. I've seen them all over the internet. I've seen pictures of all kinds of stuff, but man, it looks so good.
Check out my boat.
Yeah.
And now the funny thing is, like, I look at this boat and go, okay, I can see lines in the boat, but they're so small, it's ridiculous. I mean, I've got a 3D printed Range Rover here somewhere, and I could probably drive this boat between those lines. You know, it's like that's the difference in quality between, and I guess too, the printers are getting better. People are learning how to use them more. Dion stuff's just ridiculously on point.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't say on point.
Sounds like something
I'm too
I would
old
say.
school for that.
All right, so let's talk about if you were giving advice to someone who just started out in this hobby, in this community, what would you give them? Like, what's the advice that you give to people who just started out?
Plan a budget. Let's be realistic. Stay single for as long as you can, because once you get married, your budget goes out the window anyway. No. I'm actually pretty lucky. My wife's really good with the RC. She owns a couple herself. She's built a truck, so that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Think it out. So many people just go, oh, the excitement of having an RC, and they buy something and then they're disappointed with it because it's not what they thought it was going to be. Ask around for advice. Don't modify your vehicle if you're bored. That's a biggie. And that goes for lots of people. I've seen so many people go, check out what I did to my truck. And you're like, because you don't want to say that looks terrible. What did you do that for? Right. You know what I mean? There's mods out. You don't bolt a 2.2 to your bonnet. Just don't do it. So yeah, I don't know. There's so many different bits of advice. Shop around. You know, if you see something, don't buy the first one you see. Write down what it's called. Go home, Google it. See who else sells it, how much they sell it for. Look at warranties. Look at reviews on what that company's customer service is like. Look after yourself before you buy something. So that's probably the biggest tip, I guess, I could give. It's easy to see a bargain on eBay and hit buy, and that $20 truck you bought was nothing.
Yeah. And I think I see a lot
Steve
of...
Martin, what is a bonnet?
You want to answer that one?
Yep. That's a bonnet, Steve.
Oh.
English. And I call it a bonnet.
I love it.
This is a lot of what my Facebook group's like.
Yeah. You get a lot of rousing for how you speak, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's all good, man. So where do you see the scale crawling community heading in the coming years?
It's just going, it's crazy how much it's changed in the last 6 to 12 months. Like we said, 3D printers have just made so much difference to what we can do. And I think the companies out there that are seeing what people are doing with 3D printers is making them step up their game too. Well, crap, if someone can print this at home, we're going to have to step up our game to make something that people are just going to buy so they don't just print it at home, you know? So...
Well, did you see that HPI just started doing that? I saw it somewhere in my Facebook feed. HPI is now selling 3D printed stuff. Did you see that?
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
And why not? If they can pump it out and it's going to be good enough quality that people buy it and they're happy with it and it'll take a bit of crap, you know, more power to them, I guess. But at the same time, 3D printers that people can go and buy getting cheaper and cheaper for printers that are still really good quality. I mean, it's like TVs when the first flat screens come out. They were like $3,500 for a 40-inch plasma. And now you buy the same TV for $50 in the local trader.
Yep. Yep.
Same things happening with technology. I mean, these trucks and how they're designed, the materials that are used and how small everything is. I think we're sort of in a transition period now where people want smaller diffs, smaller axles, all the tiny little scale bolts and all that sort of thing. And we're in a transitional phase where we have to find out what's going to work best to get the strength out of it and the scale look at the same time.
Right.
The old SCX-10s were big, beefy axles, monstrous stiffs, and they took crap because of how thick everything was. Now that everything's scaling down so everything can be more scale, we're finding weak points and that we have to use different materials and stuff like that. But, dude, within the next 5 years, it's not just going to be you buy a kit and put, a hard body on it. You're going to have to build the detailed motor, the whole thing. It's going to cost you $500, yet it'll have detailed everything in it. So
yeah,
it's moving in the right direction, I think. It's, how can it not? How much fun is it?
Awesome. So I have to ask a question that was posted by one of our viewers here. Is that they asked if HPI is surviving in Australia. They said it's, virtually dead here in the States, at least where they're at. So
they're not a truck that you see very often. Even their drifters and whatever else. It's essentially the main trucks you'll see here are your Axials, your Vateras. They're probably the main ones. Traxxas, of course. It's people like the mainline stuff, so a lot of the shops will just get that.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of the HPIs, like not in person. So yeah, you don't see very many of them. Generally, I think they're one of those trucks that either someone will get a hobby shop to order in for them because it's not worth them ordering 20 of them in. You've got to remember too, we're probably 5 years behind you guys as far as how all this scale stuff's going. Obviously, there's a few of us that are trying to keep up with what you guys are doing and,
right,
keep up with the competition sort of thing. But as far as the hobby goes as a whole, we're at least 5 years back because we're such a widespread place. You guys have got major cities everywhere, spotted along everywhere, and you can have events, from one to the next, to the next, to the next. Whereas we're a bit further apart, and you might not quite have the following yet that you guys have got, per the area, so so to speak.
Yeah, and
So,
I think it's, I think it's even spotty here in the U.S. To find to certain areas. It's if you get a good group of guys together who are really putting in a lot of time and effort, doing a lot of organization and setting stuff up, then people will flock to that and they'll come, long ways to go do it. But again, if you don't have that group, if you don't have that structure, it doesn't always go that way. So we'll see.
Well, and that's Australians can be pretty lazy. I used to have a calling group called Southside Callers here in Adelaide, and we had a pretty good bunch of blokes, and there was a lot of them were from probably an hour and a half up north, and then they're like, "Oh, it's too far to drive." So, really?
Yeah, yep. And I think that I think that part kind of plagues what goes on a little bit too. But the nice thing is, so the internet really, like Facebook, Instagram, the social media stuff puts you in connection with people from all over the world. Like you and I would have never ever in real life met or spoke because you're literally on the other side of the world from me. So it's interesting and unique, and I like how the hobby kind of brings people from all over the place together. So it's awesome.
I'm in the future.
You are, aren't you? So are you ahead or behind me? Is it Friday there or is it Thursday there?
I don't even know, man. It's hard to keep up with the days, but I'm 15 and a half hours ahead.
You're on 15 and a half hours, yeah. So, which blew my mind last night. Half hour, come on. No.
So, do you know how many people ask me for login?
Yeah, I missed it. We broke out.
I say, do you know how many people ask me for lotto numbers?
Well, I will keep that in mind, and I'll keep messaging you. So, anyway, so I have a couple questions left, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up. Do you currently have any sponsors?
Yep.
You talked about some of them, and so if you've chosen those companies, why are you choosing them to represent?
I do. I have 3 sponsors: RC Mart, Racing, of course, and Samix RC. And it's pretty much the same reason with all of them. They're really great people, and RC Mark go out of their way to try and have competitions, make RC fun. You know, they're posting funny memes all the time, things like that. I've just before the feed started, I actually contacted RC Mark the other day and said I want to do a competition in my group for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to be on board? And they said, yep, bugger it, why not? We'll donate some prizes for you. So I'm going to have another competition before Christmas, and RC Mark, without hesitation, has gone, we'll give you $100 worth of store credit, and you can divvy it up between 3 prizes. You
That's
know,
awesome.
yeah. And look, the people I've met there, great people. So they're in the hobby for the right reason. And I think that's one of the most important things. They're not just guys that are selling stuff. A lot of the guys that work at RC Mart are out in the RC community, part of racing teams and stuff like that. So they know what it's all about.
Right.
Yeah, racing, your ever affordable hobbies. So that was a pretty easy one. I like the idea of getting good stuff that's affordable. I've got a lot of racing stuff, and I can't afford any of it, you know, for value for money. So, and then there's the Samex stuff, which is more expensive than this kind of thing, but at the same time, Samex stands out from the crowd. They back themselves. Their stuff's, in my opinion, second to none. So, and it's not just that either. There's a guy called Hang that runs Samex. His goal is to provide, you know, the best that he can possibly do. It's only a small company, but he
Right.
wants to try and do the best he can to please people, you know. So that's why he tries to offer free shipping on his website, all those sorts of things to make it more affordable and to get people into what he's doing for SCX 10s, 10.2s, TRX 4s, all that sort of stuff. So go and check them out.
Perfect. So
Shut up,
I only
Steve.
have one more question, and that is, what
Yep.
should we expect to see coming next from you?
Well, I've got a CCO1 I started a while ago that's not finished yet.
Okay.
Look, mate, I don't know. I mean, I love building stuff, and I want to keep building stuff. I'm currently building another D110, building that for a guy in Hong Kong. He had his 1-1 smashed into by a bus, and yeah, I'm trying to replicate his old one from photos as much as I possibly can, so that he can have his baby back. You know, I know what it's like to love cars, so that's sort of quietly in the works. I'm building that. I'm possibly building some more Tamiya truck stuff. There's so many different sides of RC that I love. Who knows what I'll build next? You know, there's a lot of ideas floating around up here, and it's just a matter of which one comes forward first. I mean, I want to build a camper for one of my cross trucks. You know, there's just so many ideas everywhere.
Right.
Stay tuned.
All right. There we go. I like it. So, is there anything that I missed, anything that you think you need to put out there that I didn't touch on, that I didn't ask you, anything like at all like that?
I don't think so. You did a pretty good job covering it. I was going to do some homework today and restudy the questions that you gave me, but I forgot. And it was like, oh, I hope I don't get in trouble. He's a teacher.
No. The whole purpose of the questions are twofold. So for anybody who watches the show religiously or follows along or whatever, I do like type questions and send them out.
Yep.
Yes, they do two things. One, they let me think about what I want to ask you. They let me go through the process and kind of map out how I would like the interview to go. And that's the teacher in me saying, hey, have a plan so that you're not just winging it with a bunch of dead space in what goes on. And two, they help you guys because they put you at ease a little bit so that you know approximately what lines things are going to follow. You don't get every question. We went way off the map today multiple times, and it happens every time I do an interview, but without providing questions to the guest, I feel like it's not fair to you guys because you have no idea what to expect. And how can you be even a little bit prepared?
Yeah, it is nice to go, oh, he did say something in his sheet about this.
Right.
You know, you don't want to be halfway through a drink and then you ask a question like, oh, I wasn't prepared for this. So, no, look, if anyone's got any questions, I'm really approachable. Shoot me a message, whatever. I mean, my phone, I've told you, goes off 24/7. And if I'm up, I answer the message. I'd never turn anyone away. So if I can help you out, I'll help you. Burdon's Custom RC Builds on Facebook, Aussie RC on YouTube and Instagram.
All right, so go check out all of his social media stuff. We should post links inside of our comments
Yep,
here
do that.
afterwards.
Yep.
And I want to thank you for being on, man. I had a blast talking to you, the test feed and this feed. Cool dude, doing lots of cool stuff with RC trucks, and I'm super excited that we got the chance to chat. So hopefully we'll get to do it again sometime in the future.
Whenever you like, mate. No, it's good. Really appreciate you having me on. It's an honor.
Yeah, and I appreciate you. So with that kind of ending things up, I'm going to let you go and kind of close the show out, and we'll get on from there.